For a franchise that consists of sentient vehicles acting as the humans in their universe, Mater has quite the family tree going, and it was growing even after the first couple of years since the original Cars movie came out. Cars 1 never officially established family members within Mater's lore. That was what the video games did, the storytellers, and of course, most recently, Cars on the Road. Here's just a overview of all of Mater's family members that we know about. We know what they look like, or heck, they might have even been mentioned. We're going all into the itty bitty logistics. We're gonna label every single one that has been a part of official Deep Cars lore. So we're going to try and go into some chronological order here. So we have to start with Cars, the video game. You had the Rust Bucket Stadium play race thing, Demolition Derby, kind of, not to foreshadow Cars 3's Demolition Derby. And Mater basically played against his cousins. And Mater was a playable character, so was McQueen, but you never could play as any of his cousins, but they were present. I want to give a shout out to Tommy Joe first, because he's the one that actually is a part of the cutscene sequence that you see before you do the race, because all of the races in Cars the video game had a cutscene that played before it. It was really nice, and a lot of them were really nicely done. Had easy headcanons because they were nice, little grounded, like it made sense. It gave you more context to the race. It was really good. Like the storytelling of Cars the video game, elite. That's a topic for another day. But Tommy Joe actually had like a speaking line there and like whatnot, you know. He's the only one that we saw in the cutscene, but the other ones that were involved in the race are Tommy Joe, of course, like I just mentioned. I believe the name is Zeke or Zeki. I don't know how to pronounce that, but it's one of those two. Lewis and none other than Cletus, Judd, and Buford. Now, those three, keep those three names in mind because they're going to be a little more relevant once we get to the storytellers. But yeah, those were the 6 cousins that Mater actually raced in that stadium in the Cars the video game. Now, Cletus, Judd, and Buford stand out. Tommy Joe, I think, might stand out because of the cutscene, but I do think like Zeki and Lewis are like almost like carbon copies of each other in terms of how they were rendered into the game. Now, next on the agenda, you have Cars Mater National, which also had like a Rust Bucket Stadium like race. Maybe like slightly different, of course, because it was a different video game. So like different like altercations with the behind the scenes work of how that unfolded. But you had the same racers there. Not sure about any of the cousins appearing in cutscenes. I'm pretty sure they didn't. The cutscenes with that game involved Bubba and then Tater and Tater Jr. They didn't involve any of Mater's cousins, but they were present. There was also another cutscene, though, including Emma. That's where I think is probably my most memorable one. It has a really nice moment, like comedic moment where they're trying to act natural because Emma's here and they're trying to make an impression on her, and they all just kind of like pile up against each other and like they act a little too natural, you know. But basically, the Cars video game. So you got Mater National and Cars the video game, not Racerama. But those two, Mater National and Cars the video game, establishes first 6 different cousins that we know of. And I'll name them off once again. You got Tommy Joe, Zeki, Lewis, Cletus, Judd, and Buford. And like I said, I was going to get to Cletus, Judd, and Buford. They get even more of a spotlight in the storyteller's book, specifically Hoodwinked. I won't show you pictures of them because showing pictures of like credited like official books is actually a copyright claim. I am not risking that for this video, obviously. So you're gonna have to take my word on it, but you can easily go and look it up yourself. There's some read-alongs on YouTube and stuff. You can see their pictures. But yeah, they do appear in the book, Hoodwinked, Cletus, Judd, and Buford. That is why in the storyteller's line back in 2009 from Mattel, you had diecast versions of Cletus, Judd, and Buford. You got them as singles, as well as getting them as like a full-on 3-pack, which is really nice. I didn't even get them back in the day, but I eventually got them over time, a part of my own diecast collection. Now, believe it or not, before we get on to some like Cars 2 mentions and Cars 3 mentions, we gotta go towards some of these. So we're gonna take a little trip back to Mater National here to mention this. This is still in Mater's family tree. Zeki's mama and Judd's mama. Yeah, they're both mentioned in Mater National, guys, believe it or not. And we're going to get into the little logistics here. But basically, Zeki's mama, which is Mater's aunt, and Judd's mama, who is also Mater's aunt. I'll just kind of combine the two. They actually are mentioned in Mater National, not in any cutscenes, but you know how sometimes with the animatronics of the game, if you like pass a car that you're facing or you hit a car that you're facing, they kind of make like phrases, like they say sounds that like they're programmed to have. It's kind of like, think of it as like a Light and Sounds toy from back in 2011. So Zeki's mama is mentioned in a line that says, from Zeki, "I hope my mama ain't watching." That's kind of what is said when it's like, you know, you maybe pass them, so like they're losing. It's like one of those, you know, it's like a throwaway line basically. And then Judd mentions his mama by saying, "Mama, I wish you were here." Now, I really hope that just means that he wishes she was at the race and she couldn't make it. I really hope that's not like some darker implication that she's no longer here, but take for that what you will. That is what the quote is. And from Cars the video game, you have Cletus's paw. Now, Cletus, probably the most notable one, because like I said, Cletus, Judd, and Buford, from those 3 of the 6 that I've been mentioning, they are like the most iconic. They're the most memorable because of their storyteller's lore. But this is from Cars the video game. Cletus mentions his pa, which is now Mater's uncle, saying, "Pa was wrong. I ain't no loser." So clearly implicated in that his pa wasn't exactly his biggest fan. He was always downplaying him, talking down on him. You know, you get fathers like that. Now we're going to go into the Hoodwink book, where a couple other family members are mentioned, but these ones a little more closer to Mater, not distant relatives. These are straight up Mater's grandma and Mater's mama. Which, yes, that would also mean that that's Mato's mom and Mato's grandma. We'll get to that, of course. But Mater's grandma, in the Hoodwink book, there is a quote in the book that says, as Grandma Mater always used to say, "One car's trash was another car's treasure." Ain't that the truth? That is something that Mater said that was quoting his own grandma, and very believable, of course, obviously. If we're gonna have a whole family tree, then like moms and fathers and, you know, cousins, blah blah blah, aunts, they all gotta exist. Mater's mama in the Hoodwink book, so obviously this is the mama, technically the daughter to the grandma, grandma being the mom to the mom. You guys probably know how families work, but I'm just trying to be as thorough as I possibly can in this video. Mater's also seen here with this quote. "Do you know how expensive hoods are, young man? Do you think they just grow on trees?" That was a quote from his mom. His mom doesn't pop up in the book. She's not an illustration or anything. That's just Mater kind of quoting what he says that his mom would tell him. Because obviously the hood was like caught in the tree because of Bubba just, you know, being a jerk, you know, being a bully basically. So that's the very, very specific, I know, deep Cars lore when it comes to the Hoodwink book and Mater National for those throwaway family members that are mentioned. And I went through all the cousins. We got 2 more cousins to go. So officially, not counting Cruz Ramirez, no, Mater has 8 official cousins that are either mentioned or seen, whether it be from the storytellers or the video games or now Cars 2 and 3. Because Cars 2 and 3 both have one new family member, like name drop on the agenda that you can officially add to this pile. So we're going to go to Cars 2. We have him mentioning cousin Betsy. This is when he was in the bathroom and he was almost a damn witness to Rod getting his ass beat, right? Obviously by Grandma Nacer. And so he sees a look at Grandma Nacer and Mater goes, "No offense to your making models, but I haven't seen you guys break down to my cousin Betsy after she got left in the altar." You know, that line. Pretty much right when he gets the tracking device like stuck up his backside. And so that's another one, but very ironic, right, guys? Because Betsy does not appear in Cars the video game. And in Cars 3, in his talk with McQueen, when he's in the trailer, really great scene, by the way, I love that scene, he says, "Take my cousin Doyle. He taught me to sing and whistle at the same time. He was very musical that way." So that's another family cousin mention drop. So we got Betsy from Cars 2, and we now have Doyle from Cars 3. And ironically, Betsy and Doyle are the only 2 of the 8 that are not opponents for Mater in either Cars the video game or Mater National, because they weren't created yet. The movie just kind of created them as new cousins. It's kind of a shame. I would have preferred if, you know, you actually had like a name drop of Cletus, Judd, or Buford in one of the movies. That would just be like sick lore connections, but I get it. You know, cousins are really everlasting. Cousins go deep and deep into lore. Like, everyone's family's expansive, you know. Makes sense and all, but it would have been nice, but a little off topic there. So right now, these are all eight of Mater's cousins. So like I said, guys, we got Cletus, Judd, and Buford. Now these are the trio, and they all are brothers, by the way. So I want to point that out. Cletus, Judd, and Buford, they're all brothers. Betsy, as far as we know, her own cousin, no siblings. Doyle, own cousin, no siblings. Tommy, Joe, Zeki, and Lewis are all actually also siblings. They're all brothers. And finally, at number 9, technically, is kind of an outlier, but thanks to On the Road, we got Cruz Ramirez, now as Mater's cousin, because her, Mato and Mateo, you guys know. You guys probably seen On the Road. They got married, which now makes Mater and Cruz official family. That's, talk about coincidence. I don't know. I'm not going to get into fan service. But, Cruz is technically a part of this family tree, which I find incredibly funny. And, of course, Mato is Mater's sister. The only one that actually appears in official media, as in terms of, actual, full-on animated media, on the big screen on your TV, 3D, all the good stuff. Mato's the only one, and I guess technically Cruz, and now Mateo, because Mateo is none other than Mater's brother-in-law now. So this is the full family tree now we have discussed. So we have, in terms of his cousins, one last time, Cletus, Judd, and Buford, who are seen in Cars the video game, Mater National, and Hoodwinked, the storyteller's book. All of those are siblings. The one-off cousin of Betsy, only mentioned in Cars 2. The one-off cousin of Doyle, only mentioned in Cars 3. Tommy Joe, who had the nice cutscene with actual lines from the video game, not Mater National though, but Tommy Joe, Zeki, and Lewis all do appear in Cars the video game and Mater National. Cruz Ramirez, only established and On the Road, because that's when the only time they were cousins because of the whole marriage. Mato, only established and On the Road. Mateo, Mater's brother-in-law, only established and On the Road. And the other ones that are going the deep Cars lore because they're only mentioned. We got Mater's grandma mentioned in the Hoodwinked book. Mater's mom mentioned in the Hoodwinked book. Zeki's mom, Mater's aunt basically, mentioned in Mater National. And Judd's mom, also Mater's aunt, mentioned in Mater National. And finally, Cletus's pa, who is Mater's uncle, mentioned in Cars the video game. Let me know what you guys think about this very drastic family tree Mater has going on here. But very interesting video to kind of dive into, all the ins and outs. The research that actually I needed to just put this video fully into motion was kind of fun, but also kind of crazy, how long that took. But regardless, hope you guys enjoyed this little analysis video on Mater's family tree, because, who knows? Maybe one of us are Mater's family members with all the stories and fantasies that he creates in the tall tales. Mater, I'm sorry guys, Mater just has the craziest lore from any Cars character, and it's not even a doubt. Maybe all of us was there too, alongside McQueen. I don't know. Mater's either a gaslighter, a manipulator, I don't know what he is, but he's got the craziest lore of any Cars character. It had to have had a video on it. Simple as that. Peace out.